Well, Dave, you've competed in over 30 Sydney Hobart races.
Yeah.
What are some of the other boats that you've sort of say that have really given you a great thrill in racing to Hobart? I mean, you sail on freight train. There's a massive boats you sail on. Minna, I think you went to Hobart with, didn't you?
Yeah, Minna, we went to Hobart in '72 and we got upset about that one. Because that was actually an Admiral's Cup trial.
That's right, it was, yeah.
And it was the first year they brought in age allowance. Sorry, yeah, it was age allowance, wasn't
right,
it?
yes, yeah.
And on age allowance, American Eagle was first.
Caprice of Huon.
Caprice of Huon was second.
That's right, yeah.
Geeko was third, Apollo was fourth.
Yeah.
Ragamuffin was fifth and Minna was sixth.
Yeah.
If you took the age allowance away, it was Geeko, Apollo and Minna. And the guy that was sailing master on Minna, Billy Ratcliffe, a very volatile sort of character, as you know.
Yeah. Good bloke.
Yeah, top sailor.
Yeah.
And oh, we're going to the Admiral's Cup. We're going to the Admiral's Cup. You beauty, you know. Yeah. And when they announced the time at the team at the prize giving, he spat the dummy.
Not like Billy.
Of course, they picked Rags,
Ragamuffin,
even though we'd beaten Rags head over heels, you know, in the elimination trials. But I think it was a shame because talking later to various people, a boat like Minna, those coal 43s, would have probably been ideal in the Channel with a short chop.
Yeah.
You know, a narrow boat, and they were a beautiful boat to sail.
Yeah, they were. Lovely.
And unfortunately, Coley first designed them in '65. The first one wasn't put in the water. I think it was Bacardi was put in
69, was it?
69, yeah. You know, like, so he was four years after he designed the thing when he put the first one in the water.
They were a very sea-kindly boat, very nice boat, yeah. And what other races stick out in your mind as hard Hobarts? I mean, you mentioned the 7-year cycle. I mean, 84 was a bad year.
Well, 84 I got tangled up with a chap by the name of Rod Muir. And brought a boat over from New Zealand that he brought over there, a boat called Dr. Dan. And we went to Hobart. Well, we tried to go to Hobart. And we're on this long, you know, port tack going out to sea, and it's blowing harder and harder, and she's falling off waves. All sorts of funny stuff was happening. And there's another character where Grimesy was navigating, Roger. Anyway, one of the young New Zealand chaps, chap by the name of Naismith, who I brought across to Tasman, and that was his first trip. He and Matthew Mason came across with me on the delivery of Dr. Dan. I think it was one of them was in the bunk and said, "Why are my feet getting wet?" And someone looked around and we realised that the cap shroud was actually pulling up through the deck. Oh dear, we had Speezy there. Bruce McPherson, Grimesy, Graham Woodruff, the original owner.
Talk about a boat full of characters.
Well, a boat full of very, you know,
colourful people.
Cleary sort of blokes too.
Yeah, sure.
And we thought, well, this is all right, you know. We go onto the port tack and we'll go inshore and we get into smoother water. And we'll cut a spinnaker brace or something to bits, and we'll make a wire grummet, splice a wire grummet together. We had all, you know, the characters on board the boat were capable of doing this sort of stuff.
Sure.
And the idea was we'd take the hydraulic boom bang off, down there, around the base of the mast with this grummet, up there to the cap shroud just below the deck, which you came through the deck, and we pull it back down. Simple.
Easy.
Whoops. Why is the port one pulling out through the deck?
Two bangs.
Anyway, we get into the smoother water and here's two of these capture hours like this, you know, waving around in the air, and Bruce McPherson went up there with Spanish windlasses and, you know, and tied them back in, put a bit of pressure on them. And we ran back to Sydney. We got into Sydney, and John Messenger happened to be in the club, the assessor, marine assessor, and he went down and looked at it and said, how the hell did you ever get it back with the mast still in it? But you know.
And then what about the infamous freight train? I mean, I can still remember you were delivering freight train back from Hobart. It must have been early 90s or something, and we were in Eden together, and I remember freight train coming in. It needed a steerer, an engineer, a motor operator. There's about 8 instructions going from the helmsman down below to someone pushing the lever to put it in reverse. I mean, she lacked a bit of tender loving care, the old freight train, didn't she?
Well, you could say that. Mate, every year we got the Hobart in freight train. The engine was full of water because you couldn't get the you know, high enough loop in it to stop the water. We tried, you know, putting a flap on the back of the thing. We tried this, we tried everything. But Parksy is an amazing guy, and we hit the dock in Hobart, and as we were going up the river, I'd start pulling the navigatorium to bits because it was all built over the engine. And then within an hour of tying up, we'd have all the navigatorium pulled to bits so we could get to the engine. We'd have all the injectors out. We'd have all the water pumped out by turning her over. And we'd fill the pots up with WD-40, go and buy another half a dozen cans of WD-40 and fill it all up, put the injectors back in, start the engine. And we'd let her run for 24 hours to burn herself out again.
Ah, dear. But Dave, what?
Just,
Yeah.
and I've got to admit, he is probably one of the best skippers I've ever sailed.
Damien Parks?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
He
Right.
is just unreal.
Yeah, yeah. But Dave, while you're doing all this this sailing up and down the east coast and parts far away, you contributed immensely to the CYC in as regards safety. You were, I think, a chairman of the safety committee here for a lot of years, and you wrote a lot of the safety rules. Tell us a bit about how you got involved in all of that.
Well, I started off as just a normal safety inspector, and then gradually, I think it was, I forget the years now. I've got them written down somewhere, people, I'm not going to put down. But I spent 10 years as the chief safety inspector, and during that time, John Hornby, Hornblower as we used to call him, he was the New South Wales chief safety inspector. And every 4 years a new book had come out and there'd be new amendments to be gone through. And there were lots of blokes on the safety inspectors that wanted to put different, what's the word on what?
Slants or?
Well, a rule, they'd want to read a rule a different way. A solicitor would try to put his own interpretation on the rule. And Hornblower gave me the job of writing it in plain language so everyone could understand it, and this was the way it was going to be done, you know. And that's how I got tangled up with, as you said, with, you know, helping to write the rules sort of thing. But
well, that was an amazing contribution to the club and to the sport, but also, I mean, besides that, I mean, you served for many, many years on the committee boat, the start boat, running races, twilight races for many.
Twilight races, yeah, and corporate days,
yeah,
Southern Cross Cup.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was doing all that.
Yeah.
Well, it gave me something to do, Pete.
Yes, exactly.
You know, like,
you're allowed to have a run or two, I suppose, weren't you, at the time?
Mate, you know, I used to get into trouble on the twilight races because normally, you know, whoever was doing it in the old days would take the boat out there, start the race, turn the engine off and just sit there and wait for everyone to come home. No, that wasn't. These diesel engines have got to be run, haven't they, Pete?
Yes, yes.
So the moment the last boat had started, I'd have the anchor off and I'd bore down the Manly and back.
Sure.
Slinging off at all the fleet as I went past, of course.
And making sure the fridge was cold too.
Definitely, mate.
But so how do you, I mean, you did your first Hobart in '61 and here we are in 2014. How have you, where do you see the sport now? What do you think of the boats, the modern boats these days?
They cheat. You know, stored power and all this sort of business. I reckon there should be a new trophy in the Hobart race, the fuel economy trophy. You know, it's,
yeah.
You know, to a lot of us blokes around my age, it's not really sailing when you can press a button to grind a sail in. And I still can't understand how you can handicap those boats compared to the normal boat where a bloke's got a wand to handle to pull the sail in. You know, it is progress. It's like Formula One motor car racing. It had to happen. You know, like, are we going to end up like the America's Cup boats they sailed last year going to Hobart? If Langman had his way, we would be, wouldn't we?
Exactly. So these days you're living down the south coast?
Yeah, I moved down to Huskisson originally.
Yeah.
At Huskisson, beautiful little seaside town. Well, it was when I moved down, you know, 7 or 8 years back. But it was advertised as one of the top 100 places in Australia to visit. Midwinter now, you flat chat to find a parking spot uptown. You know, it's just
so popular.
Just so becomes so popular.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the weather.
Yeah.
They just come down in droves. So I've moved back in from there into a place called Dromedary, which is like a northern suburb of Nowra. It's also half an hour quicker to get up here.
It's important. But 1997, I think your efforts at this club were justly rewarded with life membership.
Yes.
And you know, well deserved. And I mean, I can speak for the membership that know you well, that everyone was absolutely delighted. So it must have given you a big thrill.
It did. You know, it was quite unexpected. In those days when we received life membership, we didn't even know about it. Like, there was another chap there, the chap that used to run the starting boat, Richard Grubb, he got life membership the same night that I did. But I was walking up the stairs and the Commodore, who happened to be John Messenger, made a funny comment. And I didn't even tweet then what was going to happen. Dickie and I used to sit down the back, or Richard and I used to sit down the back and have drinks and smokes. Which you normally did in those days. And all of a sudden, David Lawson. Anyway, got up, life membership, you know. Anyway, that was all right. I walked back down to the table down the back and Dickie looked at me and said, "It's your shout tonight, Lawson, and with that, Richard Grubb." You know, it was just a shot out of the blue, but it was recognising, you know, the time that I had spent volunteering around the club. Like as you said, running the starting boat, chief safety inspector. Also spent 10 to 12 years cooking sausages on the
Breakfast
club, all that sort of business.
No, very well deserved. Well, Dave, thanks for your time. It's great to see you here and going so well. And as I said, a very, very esteemed member of this club, and you've contributed greatly to its success. So go well, and thanks for your time.
There's one little story I've got to tell you.
Right, final story.
64 going to Hobart. We actually went in through the dock gates in the sill with PT 79 painted on the bow. Remember McHale's
Navy, yes.
Think of Ensign Parker.
Yes. Tony Cable.
Tony Cable. My old man was Captain Binghamton. Uncle Archie was the cook, so he was Fuji, the Japanese cook. All that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it at that, but well done, David. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure, Peter.
Thank you.
Pleasure.